You know, since it's President's Day, I always like to ask the question, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the greatest president of them all? And every year, it gets clearer and clearer that Donald Trump may be the GOAT. What's up? This is Mark K. Saves the Republic. I actually went out. I had a lot to do today. We had a flag waving event here in town. And there was a flag waving event that was organized for President's Day in support of ICE and the Department of Justice and the local law enforcement and the United States of America and President Donald Trump. And I went out. I was just trying to pull off. I didn't get the video in time, so maybe tomorrow I'll share with you some of those images. But there is, you know what? I could probably go to my Instagram because I did some fun things on Instagram when we were there. It's always a street corner. You go on a street corner, you start waving flags, and there were some people. There was one counter protester. I thought there'd be more counter protesters, but there was only one counter protester, which not shocked by, because it was a little colder. It was a holiday. It's a Monday. It was early. It was like 10 o'clock, but there were a bunch of patriotic people out there who were doing what they could. Here, let me see what I have here on my Instagram. Oh, here we go. Here I am. This was me just a little while ago.
They were waving their flag. Look, here we are. We're waving flags. We're celebrating America and Florida, apparently. And we're honking. There's lots of honking. Woo!
Yeah, there was lots of honking. And then you can see there's people with signs. I was just screaming, really. Is trying to get the crowd into it.
Yay! Woo!
The problem. The problem with, there's Charles. Look at Charles, looks good. Obama supported legal immigration, so do I. And then there's me with Margie and a bunch of other. It's just a really great group. So now here's the problem, though, with some of these events that I see is that there's not enough. I go to a lot of these events and it's the same people over and over again. We need new people there. It's the same people over and over again, standing on the street corner, bringing out the signs, waving, and God love them. But, there's way more of us than there are of them. So we need to figure out a way. I believe we need to figure out a way to make these events just so incredibly dynamic and attractive so that we can really show our force and our numbers. And, I think that, it depends on how close we get to the campaign. That's the thing I've realized to the election day. As soon as you get the farther away you are from election day, the less anybody seems to care. And it's very difficult as a candidate because, anyone who's running, whether it's Byron Donalds, who's running for governor right now, or one of the other people running for governor, James Fishback, whether it's any of the Senate candidates who are out there running, or any of the people running for Congress like I am, it's very difficult to drum up excitement for something that is months away. I mean, people look at the election and they think November. I'm even, battling for the primary, and the primary is in August. So it's very difficult to drum up excitement for something that is months away. But it's important that we keep people focused on what's the hardcore truth and reality and what we need from the United States of America. And that includes support for ICE. That includes support for President Donald Trump, who, again, may be the greatest president of all time. Barack Obama may be the worst president of all time. And we know that because he just admitted on a podcast that aliens exist.
Are aliens real?
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in, what is it?
Area 51?
Area 51. There's no underground facility unless there's this enormous conspiracy and they hid it from the President of the United States.
Yep. What was the first question you wanted answered when you became president?
Where are the aliens?
Where are the aliens?
So that's Barack Obama saying, hey, look, aliens, yes, they exist, but no, we're not holding them at Area 51. Now, as I recall, all of those things I thought were classified. I mean, is he not just out there now on a podcast with some second-rate podcaster who's just kissing his butt? I watched more of this. It was just this guy just smooching. He was smooching. He loved Barack Obama the way Barack loves Michelle Obama, whatever her name is. But it was really it was difficult to watch. But he's out there and he's saying, yes, aliens exist. No, they're not at Area 51. And I think to myself, these are all state secrets that I guess he shouldn't be telling, unless, of course, he's somehow declassified them. I don't know if there's an investigation into Barack Obama. I don't know if they're going to raid his Martha's Vineyard estate after this. But if I were the FBI, I would do that. If I were the DOJ, I'd be like, okay, we have Barack Obama on tape saying that aliens exist and there's nothing at Area 51 that anyone should be concerned about. That to me seems like a clear violation of some kind of top secret clearance that Barack Obama has had for however long he's had it. I could be wrong, but I don't know, have top secret clearance myself, but it just seems to me like those are the kinds of secrets that you don't want to divulge, even though you've been out of office for a very long time. Speaking of people who are, well, I mean, not out of office, but out of their minds, Gavin Newsom is out there in Munich. And like I said, we're going to get to Donald Trump here and all the amazing things that he's done, because he went to Fort Bragg right before Valentine's Day and spent some time with the troops. He had a very busy and productive weekend with his surrogates running around trying to make sure that we can reopen the Department of Homeland Security, because that's very important, battling it out. But Gavin Newsom and a bunch of Democrats, they went to Munich. This is very telling. This is very interesting to me. When you're an elected official, okay, when you're an elected official, whether you're president of the United States of America, whether you're a senator, whether you're a congressperson or a governor or some state representative, it's very telling when you look at what these people do with their time. Now, the only person, in my humble opinion, who really should be going to any of these foreign conferences is somebody in the executive branch. For example, Donald Trump went to Davos, Switzerland, and he spoke and he did the Board of Peace and everything else. It was amazing. He's the chief executive of the United States of America. His job is to go and interact with other chief executives. And if there's a meeting of world leaders, it should be the leader of this country that meets with the leaders of other countries. That just makes perfect sense to me. If you're a world leader and you have a conference of world leaders, people who are decision makers and executives in their various different, different places, then I would say that Donald Trump is the person to go. And if he can't go, JD Vance can go, or Marco Rubio, or somebody from the administration. There's a lot of conferences, and but the executive branch is in charge of all that. That's why you have a vice president and a secretary of state and a secretary of war and other various people who can go out and help carry some of the international load. If you're a senator or a congressperson, it's less important for you to be there. Now, if you're on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, or if you're on the House Foreign Relations Committee, or if you're, an ambassador, or you work with one of those committees, then okay, depending on what your committee assignment is, it may be somewhat important for you to be there or somewhat beneficial for you to be there as well. If you're a governor of a state, there's absolutely no reason why you should be at one of these foreign conferences. If you're the governor of a state, your job is to govern your state. If you're the governor of your state, your job is to be the chief executive of that state. And going to Davos, Switzerland has absolutely no benefit to the people in your state. But Gavin Newsom decided to go to Davos, Switzerland and talk badly about President Donald Trump and sell some knee pads, which was weird, and make insults about the other foreign leaders that were there and belittle the Board of Peace and lose his speaking engagement or his speaking role on the stage and hang around in the back like the big doofus. What was it? The cuck chair. That's what they said. They said the White House said Gavin Newsom was sitting in the cuck chair, which he was. But as governor of a state like California, you have no business at Davos, Switzerland. It's not necessary for you to be there. And if you're there, it's not for the people that elected you. It's certainly for your own benefit. Same thing with this Munich security conference where Gavin Newsom appeared. A lot of Democrats appeared, and we'll get to that in a minute. But Gavin Newsom's running around this Munich security conference, and now he's bad-mouthing Donald Trump again, saying Donald Trump is in full retreat.
Donald Trump's in retreat. And I think it's important people understand and shape the consciousness in this way. He's in retreat on Greenland. Tonally, you saw the retreat in terms of the tone and tenor that was expressed by the Secretary of State. He's in retreat in the United States of America. He's pulling the secret police, his masked men, ICE agents, 3,000 of them. He's taking them out of Minnesota. He is historically unpopular in the U.S. They're in a reset because economic conditions. He's underwater in every key category, including his number one issue, which was immigration. And now he's underwater in terms of public opinion polls on that. So he's increasingly weak, and he's shown to be weak. When people stand up to Trump, when you fight back, fight fire with fire, he backs down. And I think he's been testing boundaries. It's what he does, throws things out. And if people are too complicit, you sit back, say we don't take him seriously. He'll take whatever he wants. If he sees something he wants, he'll take it. unless people push back with clarity and conviction. This is happening within the United States, and it's obviously happening in real time around the globe. And I think people are figuring that out, and it couldn't come too soon.
All right, so there's Gavin Newsom saying basically that Donald Trump is leading the way effective leaders lead. There's Gavin Newsom saying, here's what Donald Trump is doing. Donald Trump is being forceful and strong, and he's laying down the law. And when people bend over and take it, he just gives it to them even more. And he takes advantage. And if you don't show strength in Donald Trump's face, if you don't respect, if you don't push back on him and say, you cannot bully us around, then he's going to stop bullying you. Or he's going to continue bullying you, pardon me. But if you stand up to him, if you say, no, we're not going to handle that. No, we have a right to know you're disrespecting us. If you negotiate with him, if you step up to the table, and if you interact as a world leader, then you will earn Donald Trump's respect, and he will say, okay, I can compromise. So Gavin Newsom really is describing what is probably the perfect president. And it's not him, it's President Donald Trump. He's saying Donald Trump comes forward and he's strong and he lays down the law and he says, here's what the United States is going to do and not going to do. And the people that just say, okay, are the ones that get railroaded. But the people that say, no, we want to talk about this. We are not going to do that. Donald Trump then goes, all right, what will you do? Let's come to some kind of compromised agreement. Every president has tried to do this. Some have failed. Donald Trump does it better than anyone. And Gavin Newsom, I guess, is now admitting that makes President Donald Trump a much greater president than most that we've ever had. And definitely a much greater president than Gavin Newsom would ever be. But Gavin Newsom apparently, now here's the interesting thing. You see these clips of Gavin Newsom talking to this reporter, talking to that reporter, posting all over the internet. There's also a difference between what Gavin Newsom is doing and what's actually happening in reality. And Gavin Newsom is speaking on stage to a very small group of people at this Munich security conference. Gavin Newsom is talking to these podcasters, but he's not getting the audience and does not have near the influence that he thinks he has. Well, how do we know that? Because Rick Grinnell is also in Munich, and Rick Grinnell was stopped and said, oh, Gavin Newsom, yeah, he's basically a poser.
Well, what's crazy is I see Gavin like walking around. He's trying to be relevant here. So I just saw him in meeting room spaces. He didn't have any meetings. He was just kind of walking around and yucking it up. He couldn't be more irrelevant, and it looks really sad, to be honest, because he's just walking around trying to find a crowd and trying to find a microphone. I pray to God he is the Democratic nominee, because I know him well, and he does not work in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Iowa, any swing state. The swing states are going to see this guy from California who is woke and radical.
Yeah, and he's 100% right about all of those things. Gavin Newsom is a politician wandering around looking for an audience. He is a pundit without seeking a microphone. He's not the governor. This is why the guy started his own podcast. Don't forget, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, in the midst of the crisis that burned Pacific Palisades to the ground, that destroyed LA, in the midst of all that, while there was no water coming out of the fire hydrants, while people were losing their homes, while it was devastation roaring through one of the largest and most prolific and most lucrative neighborhoods in the entire country. While that was happening, Gavin Newsom decided, now's the time I think I need to start a podcast, because he was not getting the media and coverage and the press coverage that he wanted. And so now he's going around the country, going around the world, promoting his podcast. Podcaster Gavin Newsom is going to Davos, Switzerland, hoping to get an audience that's going to be entertained by him. He's making these, ridiculous publicity stunts that revolve around Donald Trump autographed knee pads. And now he's at the Munich Security Conference doing the same thing, jumping from ballroom to ballroom, hoping somebody will want to give him the time of day. And Rick Grinnell says, I hope to God that Gavin Newsom is the nominee, because he's not going to work anywhere. He barely works in California. Keep in mind, this guy, this shining light, this symbol of the Democrat Party, was recalled by the voters in California. He was so bad that they had a recall election, and the Democrat Party had to pour billions and billions more dollars into the election so that Gavin Newsom could just keep his position. They had to pour more and more money into the election so that Gavin Newsom could retain the role of governor and not lose it because he was so inept. That's what happened. That's what happened in California with the recall election. And now Gavin Newsom's out there thinking, well, if they don't want me to be California governor, maybe I can be president. He's not the only one, though. And Katie Britt from Alabama, she was doing the surrogate circuit on the Sunday talk show. She was talking about President Donald Trump and the DHS and how the Senate needs to reopen the Department of Homeland Security ASAP, because that's what everybody was out talking about. Tim Scott was out talking about that, and who else? What's the name? Tom Homan, everybody. They had all hands on deck, and they were all going on the Sunday shows talking about how this DHS thing is ridiculous. Tom Emmer, the majority whip, was out there talking with Fox and Friends and all that kind of stuff. Schumer was trying to counter it on CNN. We'll play that clip in just a minute. But Katie Britt, she made a great point about this Munich Security Conference and the Democrat Party.
First, to kind of go back to your earlier point, this is obviously the president negotiating with Democrats. There's no one better on the border than President Trump. There's no one better on interior enforcement than President Trump, and there's no one better at making a deal than President Trump. And so when we look at our role, it's supporting that and elevating that. But what our Democratic colleagues have to realize is that we're not going to walk away from enforcing the law. And when they talk about these different things and they're looking at it, they know that it's kind of rich, to be honest with you, to watch so many of them having flown off to Munich to talk about national security on the world stage, but yet failing to fund our own here at home. They know that ICE and CBP will continue to be funded throughout this, but they know that the other things that keep Americans safe will not, and that actual American workers, TSA agents, will be the ones paying the price. Look, we believe that local, state, and law enforcement should work together with federal law enforcement. That's why we don't believe in sanctuary cities. We believe sanctuary cities are the root cause of so much of what we're seeing today. We're not going to back away from that. We've come to the table with good faith propositions that we feel like keep our law enforcement officers safe and keep American citizens safe, which is our priority. And I hope that Democrats will join us. I think they continue to play politics, Shannon, and it's unfortunate because the American people will be the ones to pay the price.
Yeah, and so she brings up a great point. She says, hey, wait a minute. Whoa, wait a minute. Why are all these Democrats flying off to the Munich Security Conference right after they made the United States of America less secure? Think about that. They here in the United States of America shut down the Department of Homeland Security. The S stands for security. Department of Homeland Security got Democrats. Should we fund it? Nah. We got a plane to catch. They make the United States of America less secure. They defund security here at home. They make the people here in the United States less secure. They defund security for the people that sent them to office and to Washington, D.C. in the first place. And what do? They all get on planes, which are totally secure, because they did it before the TSA was shut down. And let's face it, they're all probably flying private anyway. And they fly off to Munich for something called the Munich Security Conference. Here's something you can learn at the security conference. Don't defund the Department of Homeland Security. They're all doing it because they want to, eat Wiener Schnitzel and drink, Lowenbrau or whatever with all of these bigwigs. They want to drink Riesling with all the bigwigs, the Soros people. They want to get big fat checks from all the Europeans. They want to wander around getting free FaceTime with other Trump-hating deranged people. And so they fly off to Munich. And the irony is crazy. You make America less secure, get on a plane and go to the Munich Security Conference. And Katie Britt's the only one that's pointing out the hypocrisy of all this. They should call the Senate. If I were, I don't want to talk about John Thune because he seems to be not the most. Anyway, I will say this. If I were John Thune, I would have immediately, as soon as the flights left, I would have immediately called senators back into session. If I were John Thune, I would use everything in my power. I would call Senate back for an emergency session, and I would have done it so that as soon as the wheels hit the ground in München, the planes would have had to, I wanted all the text messages going, return to Washington ASAP, Senate is back in session. I want all the planes spinning around, refueling, and I don't even want them sniffing that German air. I don't want them gazing on one pretzel or I don't know, Gewürztraminer or whatever it is. I don't want them to smell anything. I don't want them to see any lederhosen. The plane lands, you get a text message, we got to get back in session, and you got to take off again and fly another 9 hours home. That's what I would have done. Because these people are insane. They're ridiculous. It's so hypocritical what they're doing. Flying off to a foreign security conference after making America less secure. I mean, come on. Also, they're idiots. I can say that because it's true. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, another presidential hopeful. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wants desperately to become the first female, not even female, she wants to become the first socialist president of the United States of America. I don't even think it's about, it used to be the Democrats would be like, we're so progressive, we're going to have the first female president. We're going to have Hillary Clinton. She's going to be the first female president. That was a disaster. Then they're like, all right, fine. We'll settle for vice president. We'll get Kamala Harris in there. Also a disaster. Now they don't really care about that anymore. They realize the identity politics, having the first female president, that's no longer exciting. You know what's exciting? Having the first socialist president. They want a socialist in office more than they do a female. And it just so happens that the biggest socialist they have, who's not 84 years old, is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Bernie Sanders has tried and failed to be the first socialist president multiple times. But like I said, he's tried and failed. He's too old. And he's good. He's too old. And he's too much. You know what? Bernie Sanders' problem, there's a lot of problems with Bernie Sanders. First of all, he's old as dirt. Second of all, he's way too much like Larry David. And third of all is he thinks he's a socialist, but he's really a capitalist. He's got to be one of the worst socialists in the world. This is a guy who had the chance to run for president, potentially even win. He could have been president. He could have beat Joe Biden, but you know what they did? They bought him a house. He maybe even could have beat Hillary Clinton. I was in Philadelphia for the DNC back in 2016. I was in Philadelphia in 2016 and I saw the Bernie Bros and the Hillary Clinton crowd going at it. I saw the Bernie Bros storm into the convention hall when they were reading the superdelegates that Hillary Clinton had already wrapped up. Bernie Sanders could have done so much to stop Hillary Clinton from becoming the nominee, but you know what she did? She bought him a house. She gave him $600,000 and he bought a beach house or a lake house or whatever it is. Then 4 years later, it was Joe Biden who wanted to be president, and Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg it was Bernie, Buttigieg, and Biden, and the three of them were battling it out. And guess who was losing? Joe Biden. Bernie Sanders was on top of the world. Pete Buttigieg was second place, but they needed Bernie Sanders out again. He was too powerful. He could have beat Joe Biden, and they knew it. So they paid him off again. This guy makes more money selling out his socialist mentality or ideology than any capitalist has ever made selling anything else. Bernie Sanders goes out there, becomes a popular socialist, and then takes a big fat check and goes away for 4 years. Now he's back, but he's not going to run. AOC will. And so AOC has to go to all of these international festivals. AOC had to fly to Munich to try to prove that she could be president of the United States of America. And she couldn't even be president of a local, glee club. She was asked a very simple question. AOC wants to be president of the United States. But when she was asked a very simple question about whether or not we would put boots on the ground to defend Taiwan against China, she froze. Like, I'm talking major buffering.
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is this is, of course, a very longstanding policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
Okay. Now, she's, first of all, totally clueless about probably what they were asking. But then she realized pretty quickly, if I answer this wrong, I'm going to lose the backing of China. And China is the largest, most powerful communist country there is. AOC freaking loves China. Bernie Sanders loves China. Democrats love China. Why? They're communist and they're capitalist at the same time. They're rich, but they don't want anyone else to be. They're basically Democrats. Every single Democrat wants to be filthy rich and wants to game the system and wants to make as much money as they possibly can, but they don't want anyone else to be. They get rich telling everybody else, here's why you should be poor. They get rich selling everybody else on the idea of poverty. AOC and Bernie Sanders literally flew around the country promoting a socialist lifestyle, and they did so on private jets that cost $17,000 an hour to operate. Bernie Sanders flies private when he flies around the country and asks people to submit to communism and to realize that spreading the wealth around and higher taxes and lower income for all is the way to financial security for this country. But he refuses to fly commercial because, well, I'm Bernie Sanders. Yeah, there was a clip. I don't even know. I got to find this clip. Bernie Sanders refuses to fly commercial. He said he has to fly private because too many people bother him. He can't be bothered by the little man, by the little people, by you and I. People are running up and they're asking him for autographs or something. And so Bernie Sanders has to fly. He has to fly private. He can't fly commercial. I'm trying to find the clip. I don't know if I'll be able to find it in time. Bernie Sanders, private. It's in here somewhere. It's a good clip. I'm going to put it on the button bar. It's one of my favorites. But anyway, that's the whole point. So now she goes out there and she's like, oh God, AOC's got to say, all right, I should not commit troops to this because if I say yes, then China's going to cut me off. And if she gets cut off by China, her career is over. All her political aspirations go up in smoke because she, like most Democrats, are bought and paid for by communist China. Marco Rubio, by the way, a totally different scenario. Marco Rubio, he goes off to the Munich Security Conference because Donald Trump can't make it, but somebody's got to be there. And Marco Rubio is the Secretary of State. And he goes off and he gives the speech of a lifetime. Marco Rubio gives the speech of a lifetime. This is it's a 27-minute speech. They should teach the entire speech in civics class or in college or something. But this speech he gave was, we should study. The last line of this clip that I'm about to play for you, it should be written somewhere in stone and people should have to read it every single day. He basically summed up our current foreign policy in the most perfect and eloquent way. Listen.
For 5 centuries, before the end of the Second World War, the West had been expanding. Its missionaries, its pilgrims, its soldiers, its explorers pouring out from its shores to cross oceans, settle new continents, build vast empires extending out across the globe. But in 1945, for the first time since the age of Columbus, it was contracting. Europe was in ruins. Half of it lived behind an iron curtain, and the rest looked like it would soon follow. The great Western empires had entered into terminal decline, accelerated by godless communist revolutions and by anti-colonial uprisings that would transform the world and drape the red hammer and sickle across vast swaths of the map in the years to come. Against that backdrop, then as now, many came to believe that the West's age of dominance had come to an end and that our future was destined to be a faint and feeble echo of our past. But together, our predecessors recognized that decline was a choice, and it was a choice they refused to make. This is what we did together once before, and this is what President Trump and the United States want to do again now, together with you. And this is why we do not want our allies to be weak, because that makes us weaker. We want allies who can defend themselves so that no adversary will ever be tempted to test our collective strength. This is why we do not want our allies to be shackled by guilt and shame. We want allies who are proud of their culture and of their heritage, who understand that we are heirs to the same great and noble civilization, and who together with us are willing and able to defend it. And this is why we do not want allies to rationalize the broken status quo rather than reckon with what is necessary to fix it. For we in America have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline.
Wow.
For 5 centuries,
we have no interest. We here in America have no interest in being the orderly caretakers of the West's polite decline. What a great, listen to that again.
To fix it. For we in America have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline.
We have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline. That is so perfect. That is one of the greatest speech lines of any speech given by any orator or politician ever. And it happened over the weekend in Munich, and it was delivered by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. I mean, think about what he's saying there. The whole speech itself, if you itemize it, if you cut it down, and if I had time, I guess I do have time. I'm not on the I always say if I had time, I mean, it's a holiday, it's President's Day. I don't really have anything else on the docket, and there's no, it's not the radio. There's no show coming. Sean Hannity's not going to kick me off at 3:00. I guess I do have time. But if I had more time and interest, I would go through the entire 27-minute speech. But what Marco Rubio is doing here is he's laying out a foreign policy that it's the Trump foreign policy mandate. We are going to be as strong as possible. We are as strong as possible. Why? Because I'm the greatest president of the United States. We're going to have the greatest military. We're going to have the greatest economy. We're going to have the greatest foreign policy, the greatest domestic policy. We're going to have the greatest, strongest border. We're going to have the largest illegal immigration mass deportation effort in history. We are going to make America safer than ever before. We are going to have the largest AI conglomeration and factories and manufacturing. We're going to be everything's going to be awesome. And we want everybody else to be awesome too, so that we don't have to carry you. Peace through strength works for us, so we want you to be strong too. And if you're not going to be strong, we're not going to take care of you anymore. He's basically giving out an order here. Marco Rubio is saying, we want allies that we can work with to protect the world, but we want allies who are willing to stand up and protect themselves as well. And if you're not willing or able to stand up and protect yourselves as well, we're not going to just throw the blanket of protection over you. Not saying if you try your darndest to protect yourself, if you're out there and you're doing everything possible that you can do to protect yourself and you're still failing, we'll swoop on in because we understand it's out of your control. But we're not going to be, what did he say again? It was amazing. Hold on, I want to play it one more time because it was polite and orderly caretakers of the West's was it managed decline? Hold on, I got to commit this to memory because it's just
for 5
amazing.
centuries.
Hang on, here we go.
In being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline.
We have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline. He's calling out the elites too. He's saying this decline is on purpose. We see what you're doing. He's saying to all of these European countries that are allowing these massive amounts of migrants coming in from all of these Islamic countries who are destroying personal safety, who are taking over whole neighborhoods, who are changing the culture and fabric of every single European country we've seen. We've seen it in Great Britain. We've seen it in Germany. We've seen it in France. We've seen it even in Italy. George Clooney lives on Lake Como. He got that $25 million estate years ago. And now Lake Como is overrun with migrants from Islamic countries. He couldn't sell that piece of property for the amount that he paid for it because, well, let's just say the location is no longer desirable because of the West's managed decline. And the elites that have been doing this on purpose, we've been noticing here in the United States, we see you, we got you. We know your number. We're not going to stand by and take it. If you want to destroy your own countries, that's fine, but we are going to continue to manage through peace and strength. And that is Donald Trump's promise. And that is Marco Rubio's promise. And that is, like I said, one of the greatest speeches I've heard in a very, very, very long time. President Donald Trump was also out giving speeches to the greatest military at Fort Bragg. He and the First Lady showed up right before Valentine's Day to talk to the troops and rally the troops and say, we love you, troops. And in fact, he shared some amazing examples of how America is winning again.
With your help, America is winning again. America is respected again. And perhaps most importantly, we are feared by the enemies all over the globe. They fear us. And, you know, I don't like to say fear, but sometimes you have to have fear because that's the only thing that really will get the situation taken care of.
Yeah, you got to have fear. People, you know, peace through strength. If you fear us, you're going to do what we say, and we're only going to say nice things. We're only going to say good things. We're going to tell you, don't invade that other country. And if you fear us, you won't invade the other country. And if Donald Trump says, stop warring with that other country, and you fear us, then guess what? You're going to stop warring with that other country. Peace through strength works in the benefit for the entire world, for everybody. And that's what Donald Trump was telling these troops.
No other country on earth could have done what we did. No other country has the weapons. No other country has the skill. No other country has the guts. And no other country has the extraordinary warriors that we have. We have the best warriors in the world. Because you can have the greatest equipment, but if you don't have the warriors, the equipment doesn't mean much. Last month, we proved this truth once again when some of our greatest soldiers, right here, to ever live, frankly, successfully captured the outlaw dictator of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, and brought him back to face American justice, where he's now, right now, waiting. And that was an amazing night. People saw that. They've never seen anything like it. You know, it's a pretty military country. It was a big base, one of the biggest bases in South America, where he lived. And it was in a matter of minutes before he was on a helicopter being taken out of there.
Donald Trump's right about that. He's right about Iran. He's right about Venezuela. He's right about the things that the United States and the United States military has been able to do. He's right about the training and the technology. He's right about the equipment. He's right about all of those things. And he was right to do it, even though the rest of the world or some other parts of the world have said you shouldn't have done that. We don't like that you did that. We can't believe you did that. What are you doing? You're going into another country. You're stealing the president out of his bed. He's not a president. He's a narco-terrorist. In fact, Marco Rubio, in another show of amazing diplomacy on the world stage, was taking questions. He was standing next to the president of Slovakia. And there was a question raised to Marco Rubio, or to the president of Slovakia, one of them, by a fake news reporter who was basically just trying to get them angry at each other. And Marco Rubio handled it exactly the way you would think somebody in President Donald Trump's administration would handle it. Marco Rubio handled it deftly and intelligently, and he pointed out to the fake news reporter that he understood exactly what was going on, and he wasn't going to let him get away with it.
And let me just make one more point, because I think you asked him a question in order to see if you can get him against us with something about, oh, you criticize. A lot of countries didn't like what we did in Venezuela. That's okay. That was in our national interest. I'm sure there's something he'll do one day that we don't like, and we'll say, hey, we didn't like you did this. So what? That doesn't mean we're not going to be friends, we're not going to be partners, we're not going to be able to cooperate with one another. Countries express their opinion all the time. We have very close allies that didn't like what we did in that regard. I can tell you what, it was successful. We're proud of it. It was necessary, because the guy was a narco-terrorist, and we made him a bunch of offers, and he chose to tore them out. And look what's happened in Venezuela in the 6 weeks since he's been gone. Okay, now it's got a long way to go. There's still much work that needs to be done, but I can tell you Venezuela is much better off today than it was 6 weeks ago. So, we're very proud of that project. And, I know some will disagree and didn't like, but irrespective, I think everyone can now agree that Venezuela has an opportunity at a new future that wasn't there 6 weeks ago.
Look at that. Marco Rubio saying, look, I know what you're doing. You're asking questions that are meant to be divisive. But here's the fact of the matter. They cannot like what we did in Venezuela. They can say, we disagree what you did in Venezuela was right. They could do things that we don't like. But we're not going to stop working with each other. We're not going to stop being friends. We are going to continue to be the United States of America, to be the strongest country. We're going to continue to bring narco-terrorists to justice. We're going to continue doing everything that we always do, because that's what we do. And we're not doing it because Slovakia needs to like it, or the UK needs to like it, or any of our allies needs to like it. We're doing it because it's what we need to do for the United States of America. We need to stop drugs coming in here. We need to make sure that our hemisphere is not being invaded by Chinese and Russian interests. We need to make sure that the Cuban regime falls. We need to make sure that these drug boats get blown out of the water. We need to make sure that the cartels stop kidnapping people. We need to make sure all of these things happen, because our job is to protect people in the United States of America, in the Western Hemisphere. So Look, we love Slovakia. We're great friends with Slovakia, but we did this for us, not for Slovakia. If they don't like it, tough noogies. We're still buds. And at the end of the day, it turns out that what we did in Venezuela, what we did with Nicolas Maduro, turns out that it was great for Venezuela, because Venezuela, it's never been better. The people are happier. The people are safer. There's more money. It's going to the places where it needs to go. We're getting the oil. China's gone. Russia's gone. Cuba's about to be Cuba's about to sink. That regime's going to be gone. The people in Cuba are about to rise up and take over that country. It's the kind of foreign policy that is foreign policy for the enrichment of the United States of America, not foreign policy to placate foreign leaders. That's what we've been dealing with Joe Biden. That's what we'd be dealing with AOC or Gavin Newsom, should they ever, God forbid, be put in a position where they are president of the United States of America. Peace through strength. Donald Trump said it. And the other part about peace through strength is it's kind of a flywheel. As you grow your military and prove your military might and prove your military strength and show the rest of the world we are a force to be reckoned with, and that you should fear us, and that we are building up this massive American military not to promote war or to wage war, but for peaceful purposes, what happens? Your military automatically grows. Why? 2 reasons. Number one, people go, I want to be part of the best thing in the world. It's that crowd mentality. When something's great, everybody waits in line to go get it. Everybody wants Noah Khan tickets, even though nobody's going to be able to get them. Everybody wants the thing that's great. They want to be part of the great thing. So when the military is great and the military is strong and the military is respectful, you get more people joining the military. And if they know that the military is also being used for peaceful purposes, not to wage war, but to promote peace, then they know they're going to be safe. And so if your son or daughter says, I'm going to join the military because President Donald Trump is building the greatest, strongest, most lethal and powerful military force ever, and he's using it not to wage war, but to promote peace, then you're going to say, great, go and do it, because not only are you serving your country, but you're doing it in a way that we know you're going to be safe, because Donald Trump is not going to send you into a situation where you're going to be unsafe. And the rest of the world is going to look at this massive military and go, you know what? We're not going to mess with that. That's exactly what's happening.
Last year, the Navy and Air Force and Space Force all surpassed their recruiting goals by 5 months early, and the numbers are through the roof. In fact, it'd be a very good time to expand. It's a good time to expand. But the Army did even better than the others, and you shattered your annual recruitment by almost 5 months and lots of days, but more importantly, the number and the quality of recruit has never been higher. This year, the Army is beating its recruitment goal by 116%, and I'm very proud of that. I was very embarrassed for a period of years as I watched how badly this country was run, standing outside and hearing constantly that we couldn't get people to join our great forces.
Yeah, that's President Donald Trump saying, look, recruitment it's being blown out of the water. Everybody wants to be part of the greatest thing to happen to the United States military in quite a long time. Everybody, when something's good, people want to be part of it. When they see something great, when they see something growing, when they see something amazing, when they see something they like, when they see something hopeful, they want to be part of it. They want to join in the fun. Speaking of which, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the governor of Arkansas, just followed me on Instagram, which basically proves my point. She saw something good. She saw something fun. She saw something exciting. She saw something she wanted to be a part of. She saw that 200,000 people have already said, I want to be a part of this. So she goes, all right, I'm going to start following Mark Kaye on Instagram as well. So welcome to Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, Governor Huckabee Sanders. We're thrilled to have you. But where was I? Oh yeah. Which brings us, by the way, to the shutdown currently. The Department of Homeland Security shutdown. The Department of Homeland Security is currently shut down because the Democrats don't like ICE. They don't like ICE agents. They're trying to make a political statement, and they're trying to force ICE agents to do all of these things that are actually going to put them in harm's way. One of them is taking their masks off. One of them is taking their masks off. Here is, what's his name? Where is he? Here is, I was looking for Tom Emmer. Where is Tom Emmer? I think it's here.
Okay, let's get into some of their demands.
Yeah.
This is what they say. Make ICE agents show ID and wear body cameras. That's already happened to body cameras. Ban agents from wearing masks. Ban racial profiling. I'm not sure that's happening. Require a warrant to enter private property. Of course, they're trying to take this from the civil process to the criminal process. Are any of these things non-starters or anything that y'all can find compromise on?
Well, first off, common sense. I mean, they want law enforcement agents to show ID when they don't want voters to show ID. There's no common sense here. This is all politics. They're talking around the issue. What they're doing, Lawrence, is they want reforms that, frankly, protect illegals and criminals at the expense of tax-paying citizens. Let's go after that warrant one. You already have administrative warrants, and Americans, if they were told the truth by these guys, would understand in order to get an administrative warrant, the defendant, the subject of the warrant, has already had full due process. Now they want what they say is a judicial warrant. And on its face, it sounds reasonable, right? Well, we got to get a judicial warrant. The administrative warrant is already the same thing. Putting a judicial warrant on top of that, you'll never get a judicial warrant in the timely manner that you need to get it. So the result? Mass amnesty, which is essentially what we had under the Biden administration. They want this again. They make it sound like it's something good. It's not.
Nope, it never is. If the Democrats are for it, you should be against it. If the Democrats are happy, you shouldn't be. If the Democrats are sad, pop the champagne, something good is happening. That's the Patriot Manifesto. If the Democrats are happy, you shouldn't be. And Tom Emmer saying if the Democrats are going to be happy with these judicial warrants and unmasking ICE agents and making them wear body cameras, which, by the way, the ICE agents have no problem with. It's the unmasking that they have a problem with, because wearing a body camera doesn't put you in personal harm or put you in harm's way or make your family a target. But you know what does? Being unmasked. And even CNN, even Jake Tapper on CNN tried to point that out to what's his name? Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer went on CNN with Jake Tapper, and Jake Tapper actually asked him a somewhat decent question.
Well, what if they are going after the cartels? I understand with the roving patrols and such that you're talking about, but if in specific targeted instances, if ICE agents are going after criminals, violent criminals, members of the cartels or whatever, and you'll acknowledge that some, maybe a minority, but some of the people being picked up are that, there certainly is an understandable concern about an ICE agent's safety in that instance, no?
Every other police department in America is unmasked. ICE can do the same. This is a rogue force. They're almost trained, it looks like, to be nasty and mean and cruel and go way beyond what ordinary police departments do. So they need to be reined in. They need to stop the violence. And the question that Americans are asking is, why aren't Republicans going along with these common sense proposals? They're not crazy. They're not way out. They're what every police department in America does.
Yeah, but every police department in America doesn't go after, as Jake Tapper said, cartel members who have organizations and networks that can find these people's families and homes and bring them harm or kill them or burn them down to the ground or destroy their lives or do whatever. The cartels they have intelligence agencies that rival some major European countries. They can find you and they don't care about the laws. They will send whatever warning signal they need to send to continue their operations. And ICE agents are in harm's way because ICE agents are the ones dealing with them. Cops in, let's just say, for example, Jacksonville, Florida, where I happen to be, they don't wear masks because, number one, most of them are pulling people over for speeding. Not me, sometimes me, but it doesn't matter. They're pulling people over for speeding, or they're going in there and they're trying to engage or to stop some kind of domestic dispute, or they're picking up random, small-time drug dealers or addicts. It's rare that there is a major crime in Jacksonville. I mean, look, we're not the safest place in the world. I'll be the first to admit it. But, yes, there's a shooting here. Yes, there's a shooting there. But none of them are like Tren de Aragua. None of them are massive cartel scenarios. That's what ICE deals with. And so the cops don't need to wear protective masks typically, because if you pull me over for speeding, I'm not going to come after your family. If you bust a small town, drug runner, or if you pick up a homeless guy and take him to the shelter, he's not going to come to your house and try to burn it down. If you are a police officer in Jacksonville, Florida, and you go to a house and stop a domestic disturbance or arrest a guy who's, in a wife beater and abusing his wife and take him downtown, he's not going to park outside your kid's school and try to kidnap them. That's not, hopefully he's not. That would be the odds are that he's not going to. But drug dealers will do that. These networks of criminal terrorists will do that. And ICE knows that, and that's why they protect themselves. Also, on top of all that, you got all these crazy leftists that just hate ICE, so they're out there aiding and abetting the drug dealers. They're out there aiding and abetting the criminal gangs. They're out there saying, you know what? We're going to find out who these ICE agents are, and we're going to dox them, and we're going to put their information up publicly. And that just makes it easier. And the gang members are like, gracias. Oh, these liberals, they're so crazy. Las Sinestras, the lefties, look at them. They're doing our work for us. These crazy Karens, man. These white women in the suburbs with no job. Look what they did. We got all the ICE information right here. Let's just go bust some heads. They're making it easier for the gang members to attack American law enforcement agents. And of course they're going to have to wear masks. Chuck Schumer, again, being a slave to ridiculousness, a lack of common sense, and a party that has been hijacked by the woke folk, it has to go on TV and basically paint himself an idiot just to keep his votes. Tim Burchett, on the other hand, just goes on his phone at his farm in the rain and explains to people how it is.
Hey everybody, Tim Burchett. Y'all know what's crazy? First of all, I'm standing out here in the dadgum rain talking to y'all here at the farm. Second of all is the Democrats shutting the government down because they want to unmask ICE agents so they can harass law enforcement because they're enforcing the dadgum laws. Tell them next time somebody breaks into your dadgum house and they want you to feed them, want you to clothe them, want you to give them medicine, want you to educate them. That's exactly what illegal aliens are doing. And yeah, I'm sure some of them are good people, but they got a lot of dirt bags in there. But the real irony of the whole thing is, how much money do you think, as they shut the government down, one of those areas is Coast Guard, how much money do you think their budget is? I'll tell you, it's around $14.5 billion. And guess what they stole in Minnesota? $14.5 billion with a B. Both of them, $1 billion. And that is what they're protesting, so they can keep doing that. And that's why they're mad at the ICE agents, because they're trying to enforce some portion of the law which the Democrats don't like. Anyway, let's keep fighting. Let's take our dadgum country back, folks, and please keep praying for our country. Thank y'all for sending me here.
Our dad, that was like a 4 dadgummer, by the way. I don't know if you count. That was a lot of dadgums. He's fired up. You can always tell that's a 4 dadgummer from Tim Burchett about the Democrats. How crazy it is that they're defunding the Coast Guard, but they're stealing money to the tune of $14.5 billion in Minnesota. I mean, think about that. They've defunded the Coast Guard from $14 billion, and they stole $14 billion from America in Minnesota. Is that why they shut it down, so they can recoup that loss? Wouldn't it be better to give the Coast Guard the $14 million than the Somali immigrants who are creating fake businesses and bilking the United States out of money? I would think so, but then again, I'm not a Democrat. And that's the difference. The Democrats think differently. They think that if you vote for the United States of America, if you vote to put America first, if you vote for somebody who's going to secure our border, if you vote for somebody who's going to deport illegal criminal thug aliens, if you vote for somebody who's going to make it harder to defraud the government, if you vote for somebody who's going to force you to prove citizenship, if you want to vote, which is a constitutional right of citizens only, if you vote for somebody who's going to build the economy, strengthen the economy, and impose tariffs to make sure that our quote unquote allies act in a way that is fair to us when it comes to trade, if you're going to vote for somebody who inspires manufacturing in the United States of America, and if you're going to vote for somebody who stands up to our enemies and stops wars and promotes peace, then you're the problem. If you vote for somebody that does all of that, you're stupid. Ilhan Omar literally thinks that Trump supporters are idiots. How do I know that? Because she said it on the news.
These people are just idiots. I really, I'm at the point where it's become really hard to have an intellectual debate with any of these people because the level of stupidity that they are displaying every single day is frankly embarrassing, not just in Congress, but as Americans. And the fact that these people are allowed to say just the most ridiculous things tells you that the dumbing of the United States has arrived, because how else do we get a Trump presidency again?
Yeah. So she's saying, first of all, that the First Amendment is a problem. The fact that these people, by the way, these people, she means you. When she says these people, she means you. She means me. She means Republicans. She means people who voted for President Donald Trump, all 75 million plus. When she says these people, she means conservatives. She says these people, the fact that these people have a right to say such stupid things is a problem. The fact that we have a right, yeah, we do have that right. It's called the First Amendment. And it's the premier, after the freedom of religion, we can exercise our freedom of religion in any way we see fit, and we can speak out against the government or anybody else that we want to speak out against, because that's what we have here in the United States of America. And Ilhan Omar has a huge problem with it. The fact that these people have the right to freedom of speech. No wonder Donald Trump is president again. If we just took away, and this is exactly what the Democrats think, and it's exactly what the Democrats tried to do for 4 years under Joe Biden. If we just took away their freedom of speech, if we just censored them, if we took them off of social media, if we demonetized them and called up Twitter and said, you need to delete these accounts. We don't care if it's the press secretary. You need to take down her comments. We can't have all this freedom of speech going out there. Donald Trump is going to get reelected by these horrible people, these idiots. She thinks that she's smarter than you because she came from a foreign country, moved to the United States, got elected to Congress, and helped her fellow citizens and constituents bilk the government for $14 billion. And you're the stupid one. It's not just her. All Democrats, by the way, they all believe that. They all believe that. I want to leave, before we wrap this up real quick, I want to play you this Eric Trump quote because, and I found the Bernie Sanders thing. Let me play the Bernie Sanders thing, and then I'm gonna wrap it up with Eric Trump. This is Bernie Sanders talking to Brett Baer about why he refuses to fly commercial.
Alyssa Slotkin, senator from Michigan, she said you shouldn't be using oligarch. It's over people's head. You've gotten criticized from other people. Free Beacon says Bernie Sanders spent $221,000 on private jets fighting the oligarchy tour, paid for by friends of Bernie Sanders. That you've spent millions of dollars in campaign funds on private jet travel over the years. How do you push back on both of those things?
When's the last time you saw Donald Trump during a campaign mode at National Airport?
No, it doesn't. But he's also not fighting the oligarchy.
No. You run a campaign and you do 3 or 4 or 5 rallies in a week. The only way you can get around to talk to 30,000 people. Think I'm going to be sitting on a waiting line at United waiting, 30,000 people are waiting? That's the only way you can get around. No apologies for that. That's what campaign travel is about. We've done it in the past. We're going to do it in the future.
And you think that this is hitting a mark? You think it's scratching the itch that voters want to hear from?
I think at a time when the people on top are doing phenomenally well, when seniors, working class people are struggling, people want to hear action to stand up to the people who have the wealth and the power and create an economy that works for all of us, not just the people on top.
Well, Senator Sanders, I appreciate you coming on.
So Bernie Sanders says, I'm not going to wait in line. You think I gotta go fly around and talk about the oligarchy? And you think I'm going to wait in line with regular people? No, I got a private jet. I got to go 3 places. I got 3 cities. I got a private jet. You think I'm going to wait online with you at United? You seen the people at the airport? I'm not waiting in line with them. I'm going to get on my private jet. I'm going to fly. I'm going to eat a lobster sandwich, a lobster roll, while I'm on my private jet talking about the oligarchy. That's one of my favorite. I'm not going to wait in line on United. What are you, crazy? This is how all the campaigns. Everybody does it. Everybody does it. That's why everybody, you know who doesn't do it? Kat Cammack, who's celebrating a birthday today, by the way. Kat Cammack, who's celebrating her birthday today. Happy birthday, Congresswoman Cammack. She flies commercial Not only that, but she took a picture once of her seat that was being duct taped. It was being held together by duct tape. And first of all, I would be off of that plane. Like if the plane's being held together by duct tape, I'd be out of there. Second of all, first of all, I would at least expect her to fly first class. I was like, look, I get that you want to fly commercial and be with the people. That's great. But you're a congresswoman. Fly first class. She's like, no, I'm flying in the duct tape seat. And I was like, all right, you do you. Happy birthday. Here is Eric Trump. Eric Trump was being interviewed by one, and this is why we need more of these politicians like Donald Trump, who knows how to handle the fake news, like Marco Rubio, who knows how to handle the fake news, like JD Vance, who knows how to stick it to the fake news. Eric Trump is really walking in the footsteps of his father, and he's doing an amazing job. Listen to this. He was on a podcast with some British reporter who, and they do this all that they sound very smart and they sound very calm and cool and collected. And they try to devalue a situation or diminish the importance of a situation. And they try to take something awful that happened to President Donald Trump and make it seem, they try to normalize it. Like the way the Democrats and Joe Biden acted toward President Donald Trump is just normal. And Donald Trump is being hyperbolic and freaking out about nothing. And Eric Trump put him in his place.
You know, I take that point. My point is that some of the siege that you faced, and I understand why it was very personal and distressing, but can you accept that some of it was just people legitimately disagreeing with your father's policies and using every lever available, as people generally do in politics, in order to push back?
No. Hold on one second. I mean, there are politics, and there is peaceful discourse, right? Over the fact that two people might disagree on abortion. People might disagree on gun rights. People might disagree on the limitations of freedom of speech, right? People can have these disagreements on either side, and they can do so, and they can debate certain things, and whoever wins that debate and the populace ultimately wins. That's different than raiding somebody's house. That's different than subpoenaing their children with the intent to literally try and bankrupt a company. That's different than calling every financial institution and telling them to debank a person. That's different than making up dirty dossiers where saying that there are golden you-know-whats happening with prostitution when it was totally fabricated and paid by the opposition. That's different than saying that there were secret servers in the basement of a building communicating with the Kremlin when we don't know a damn person in the Kremlin. We don't know anybody in Russia. We had nothing to do with Russia. That's different than having people take him off the ballot in states so that democracy could not prevail in those states. Having radical justices strip him off, that's different. That's different than raiding somebody's home, raiding their wife's closet, taking their legal documents protected by attorney-client privilege, taking their medical records protected over here by something called HIPAA. That's different than all of those things. That's different than calling every attorney general and district attorney in the country to indict somebody for doing absolutely nothing wrong. All of those indictments we've since overturned, right? That's criminal type behavior. That's not democracy. That's not the debate of ideas where people can have different perspective.
That is, again, an amazing diatribe, an amazing response to a stupid question. Don't you believe this siege that you're discussing? What if it's not a siege at all, but it's just people who disagree with your father, just sharing their point of view? What if it's just someone disagreeing with the president of the United States? It's not a disagreement, dude. It's criminal behavior. And he itemized at least a dozen that he could have done a dozen more. Because unfortunately, there were dozens and dozens and dozens of ways that Donald Trump was attacked, that his family was attacked, and that they were, quite frankly, under siege. And it was not just somebody disagreeing with you and your family. What if it's just a disagreement? It's not. It was criminal weaponization of the government in the attempt to illegally stifle the political aspirations of their number one opponent. And they failed miserably. But man, they tried. And everybody in the fake news media, everybody on the left is trying to make you think they didn't. Everybody in the fake news media, everyone on the left is trying to make you think, it was just a difference of opinion. It was criminal. And I wish that somebody would send them to jail. But that's probably, that ship has sailed. Hey, speaking of ships that have sailed, I don't know if you're into this Bitcoin stuff or the stock market, but both of those are questionable volatile investments. You know what's not? Gold. Gold is incredible. Silver is incredible. Precious metals, they continue to grow in value year after year after year. And that's why so many people, especially people that have like $50,000 in an IRA, I used to have a $50,000 IRA. I had a 401k investment, and the $50,000 would fluctuate so much. The stock market would plummet, and I'd go, oh my God, there goes my retirement. I got to work till I'm 90. And then the stock market would go back up. I go, okay, I can retire when I'm 65 again. Then it would go back down. I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to have to stop working. Not that I'm ever going to do it. It's just so volatile, but gold continues to grow year after year. And that's why the folks at Augusta Precious Metals are so incredible. And that's why their gold IRA is the top of the charts. They are 5-star rated by the Better Business Bureau. If you go to markswealthstrategy.com, real simple, I made a custom website for you, markswealthstrategy.com. You can see my wealth strategy. You can go in there, you can request your free guide, you can put in your name and your email address, and you can download it, immediately. You can start learning about the benefits of a gold IRA immediately, especially in 2026, and make sure that your $50,000 IRA or more is protected. But the first step is to go to markswealthstrategy.com. These people have been vetted. There's companies I've worked with in the past that I didn't end up liking for whatever reason. We've vetted Augusta, and they are legit. They are the real deal. They are premier. They will take care of you. They will invest your money. They will protect your family's financial future like it's their own. markswealthstrategy.com. You can also text the word wealth to 35052. Text the word wealth to 35052. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and this podcast. Make sure you set the notifications so that whenever we go live, you get notified. Whenever you plug in your phone to your AirPlay in your car, the latest podcast is there for you to listen to and enjoy. We want to keep you informed. We want to keep you entertained. We want you to know who the threats are, who's standing up for you. We want you to know who's coming after you, who's attacking you, who you need to be aware of. We want to also make sure that you stay informed and stay enlightened and stay charged up and ready to go. Because the battles keep raging, and you and I and all the Catriots all over the globe will have to continue to fight